depression. When this word comes to mind, rooms go quiet and heads lower.
This topic can make close friends and family blame themselves and feel as if they are the reason.
The problems, the hurt, and the pain that depression causes is like a piece of glass in the palm of one's hand.
And these problems can only hurt you if you hold on to them.
Some of us think holding on makes us strong, but sometimes
But sometimes it is letting go.
Furman House.
We're moving forward. We're moving forward.
Welcome to Student Connections, where students connect with their community.
Hello and welcome to Student Connections on M6, your hometown station. Today we have with us Miss Alicia Shagney. Alicia, how are you today?
Good, thanks.
So, could you tell us about your previous job experience?
Sure. Prior to coming to Marysville, I was a teacher in East China School District and an administrator at St. Clair High School.
That's really good. I'm glad to hear that you've stayed in the area because I do really like growing up in the Blue Water area, so I feel like that's a good place to work and go to school.
Oh, absolutely. And I grew up in the area too, and Marysville just has always had a great reputation for a school district, so it's exciting to be here.
So could you tell us what your goals are for Marysville Middle School within the next 5 years or 7 years, or how long you ever feel like you're going to be here?
Sure. Well, I plan to be here for at least 5 years, but we're still in the process of establishing our goals for this year and long term. Obviously, student safety and students feeling like they have a safe school environment will be our primary concern, because we know that kids can't learn if they don't feel safe, and I think most of the students at Marysville Middle School feel safe to be there. Obviously, to continue to develop and prepare our students for high school is a primary goal, because we know that the transition to high school can often be a difficult one for some students, and then to continue to raise our test scores and continue to be the best in the area in terms of MEP scores or whatever tests that we're taking over the next 5 years. We don't know exactly what that'll be, but to continue to be the best in the area and the go-to place for school of choice, because we know that we do have the best middle school and best high school and best elementary schools in the area.
What do you consider your strengths to be as administrator and principal of the Blue Water School area?
Okay, well, I guess I would say one, I like to get to know my students, so probably building relationships would be a strength. If students feel a connection at school, then they're going to be more successful. Data analysis, I was an accountant before I was a teacher, so I do like data, and that's an important thing for an administrator to be able to do in the environment that we're in right now, is to look at data and to analyze plan scores and Explorer scores and MEP scores to continue to build our curriculum off of the results of those test scores. So it is really important that we're looking at those, and that our students and our parents and our teachers understand how to use those test scores to drive instruction.
So you were talking about test scores. Speaking of test scores, how's this year going so far? Does everybody seem to like you? Everybody warming up?
I think so. I did know a lot of the students prior to actually coming there, because I am from the area, and I have kids about the same age, and so I've gone to church with a lot of the kids at the school, and so I know a lot of them. But yeah, I continue to develop a lot of relationships with the kids, and they have all been very, very welcoming to me as the principal.
Well, you seem like a very bright woman, so I'm sure they would warm up to someone with such a nice, glowing personality.
Sure, right.
Could you tell me a major difference between St. Clair and Marysville, or one that you've noticed so far?
It's funny. You would think that going from a high school to a middle school that there would be a lot of differences, but really there aren't that many differences. I kind of see a correlation between kind of the sixth graders coming in and being new to the school and being unsure of the environment, similar to how a ninth grader comes in to the high school. So that hasn't been a very difficult transition for me. So I think St. Clair and East China School District and Marysville have very similar philosophy, and that is student-focused education. So there really is not a lot of difference because it's so student-driven, and we're both looking at after the best interests of our students. And so really there has not been a lot of differences. The technology has been very nice at Marysville, having the technology in East China. Sometimes we have initiatives that we would like to do, but we just don't have access. We don't have the one-to-one technology. We didn't have one-to-one technology there that we have here in Marysville, and we're just so fortunate to have that and to be able to drive individualized instruction with that one-to-one technology has just been tremendous.
So how technology is such a big play here in Marysville. Did you implement any new changes at Marysville so far, or do you have any plans for the future of implementing a change?
Related to technology?
Relating to technology or anything?
Well, the teachers at Marysville Middle School do a great job of integrating technology into their classrooms. This is the second year that they've had iPads, so everybody's becoming a little bit more comfortable with the thought of having those in their classrooms. We implemented actually a couple of new things. One is we're going to try to do a lot more of our test taking on the iPads. So our STAR testing, which our students just got done doing last week, and then we have some makeup testing today actually. So utilizing Data Director and doing more online testing with that as well. And then we also unfortunately had to implement a little bit more defined policy for students that violate our policy related to the use of the iPad, so that the students are very clear as to what the expectations in the classroom are, that they're to remain focused on educational applications and not social or gameplay. So that's been a little bit of a change, but we're still working through that.
That's definitely, I feel like setting those expectations, especially in Marysville, I've always had like pounded into our heads like this is the expectation, and they're not lowering the bar for us.
Right.
We have to raise to the occasion.
Right, absolutely.
Have you found any benefits of the iPads in the middle school?
Oh, there's so many different things. It allows us to differentiate instruction. So for instance, when you have a classroom of 30 kids, and most of our classrooms right now have 30 kids, they're all different points, different levels. So a lot of the applications, especially in math and English, we are able to differentiate instruction for each individual student based on their skill level. And it also will help a lot. It helps a lot with remediation too. If a student doesn't understand a lesson, they can go back to some different applications that they put on their iPads to help them practice. So we know practice is important, and sometimes students don't recognize the importance of practice, but the iPads a lot of times can help them practice in a fun way.
That's definitely correct. As an athlete, I know that practice and repetition makes perfect, so I feel like that is a very good thing to focus on about practice.
Yep, and that's an analogy that we try to use a lot with kids because they don't see that connection. So in math, it's practice. You have to practice, just like if you're a volleyball player or a swimmer or something, you're constantly practicing to get better, and it's the same thing with school, same thing.
I totally agree. How are you adapting to the new staff? Every school has that different makeup, that different way of life.
Yeah.
So how are you adapting?
Yeah, good. The teachers there have been extremely welcoming. I think one of the strengths of the staff at the middle school is that they definitely collaborate. And one of the board goals is to continue our PLC our PLC work. And so the teachers at the middle school are always working together. They are collaborating, and they've included me in that. I just think it's a very welcoming place, and the teachers are excited, and that shows with the successes that they've had.
So were you the principal at St. Clair or the assistant?
I was the dean of students, which so at St. Clair High School, my responsibilities included discipline for 9th and 10th graders, and then all the testing, so MEEP, ACT, Explore, and Plan, data analysis, and just about anything else that gets thrown my way, attendance, lots of different things, athletic supervision.
So is that a different thing, stepping up to like the principal, the head of the school, instead of being the dean of students like you were at St. Clair?
A little bit. I think the main difference has just been that I would always have someone to bounce ideas off of, I would bounce ideas off the principal, and so now I'm kind of the decision maker, the sole decision maker, and of course with Mr. Curley, and Mr. Curley and I collaborate a lot too, but it's a little bit different being, the person that everyone's coming to all the time. But again, we work together really well at the middle school, and I never really feel like I'm making any decisions in isolation. I confer with the staff a lot, and again, Mr. Curley is always there, and him and I talk a lot and make decisions together. So, it's a little different, but
I do believe collaboration is key. I mean, communication, you never get away from that, from the age of middle school to high school, and then even when you go into the workforce. And speaking of communication, we'll be right back after this.
Just like the Air Force Thunderbird pilot I flew with, I have to make split-second decisions as a top fuel driver. Hi, I'm Brandon Bernstein, driver for Kenny Bernstein's 2010 Copart Lucas Oil Top Fuel Dragster. To make it in the NHRA, I've had to work hard, stay focused, and make smart decisions along the way. To reach your goals, you need to think straight, stay on track, and give your very best effort in everything you do. Make the right choices today and be ready for the challenges tomorrow. This message brought to you by the U.S. Air Force.
Look, Mom, no skis. No fish.
Falls on TV can be entertaining. Falling at home can be devastating. Each year, 1 in 3 Americans over 65 falls in their own home, breaking bones and shattering lives. For older people, any broken bone can be serious. A broken hip, potentially lethal. To make your home as fall-safe and bone-friendly as it can be, visit orthoinfo.org/falls. A public service message from the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons, where staying on your feet is doctor's orders.
Welcome back to Student Connections. I'm your host, Liz Sturtridge, and today we still have Miss Shagney from the middle school. We were talking about the differences between St. Clair and Marysville. Could you talk about maybe the difference in curriculum or the level of learning based in the schools?
Well, the state really directs our curriculum, and so there really aren't going to be any differences in curriculum in most schools that you go to in the state of Michigan. Any public school really is going to have the same curriculum. So we're still working on the same things as they were in East China, identifying our weak areas based on our test scores, and trying to decide what to do with the Common Core, because we're waiting for the state really to make a decision if we're going to continue to fully implement the Common Core, which we've started that process here, and East China has started that process as well. So in terms of the curriculum, there really aren't going to be any, there really are no differences.
You keep talking about the test scores and identifying the problem area. Could you tell me maybe what you think the best test is to identify maybe their problem area or their strengths and their weaknesses?
Well, in Marysville, we really don't have any problem areas. We are still all in the top in the state in terms of test scores, so we don't really have any problem areas, but the state wants us to continue to show growth, and so that's a challenge for a district like Marysville that has such high test scores, because we know as you get a higher percentage of students proficient, then it gets more difficult to show growth. And so that's really our big challenge in Marysville. I'm sure every principal would probably tell you a similar answer to that in terms of improving test scores. But right now we use the MEP, and the state tells us that we have to use the MEP, and that's what they really base a lot of our growth on. But the state legislation has shifted a little bit, and so we will be able to use some other test scores in terms of showing growth for like teacher evaluation. So the NWEA test, for instance, is going to be something that they're going to use. The ACT and at the high school will continue to be used. So, but the marker still is going to be the MEP for the middle school.
How do you interact with students when you're about to give like a big standardized test? Because I know I was always like freak out a little bit because it's such this standardized tests.
Right,
So how do you get your students ready for that?
Well, we actually have testing coming up in the next 2 weeks, so we'll be taking the MEP just like every other student across the state of Michigan will be taking the MEP. So I think we have to find that balance. We don't want students to feel a lot of test anxiety because we know students aren't going to perform when they have a lot of test anxiety. So we have to find that balance of making or helping them understand that the test is important for a lot of reasons. One, it's important because it helps us to drive curriculum. So if we look at their test scores, we know where our weaknesses are or where their individual weaknesses are as a student. So it really helps us to improve their own individual performance and identify their strengths and weaknesses as well as our curriculum, our curricular strengths and weaknesses. So we want them to understand that it's important, but they don't have to feel a lot of anxiety. We've prepared them. They're ready for it. They've done it before. And so it's that balance, I think, when we go into a test.
So tell me a little bit about how you interact with a student on a daily basis. Do you stand in the hallway, say hi to them? Do you wave them in when they come in from outside? Or what is the interaction between principal and student at the middle school?
Yeah, well, I spend a good part of my day interacting with students, as it should be. That's why we're here, is for the students, and that's why I'm there. And so usually my day starts about 10 after 7. Our doors open at 7:15, and kids will start coming in at 7:15, and I stand in the main hallway and greet them as they enter the building. Sometimes I hold the door, depending on how the weather is. It's getting a little chilly to hold the door, but so interact with them that entire time for the 45 minutes as students are entering the building. And then once the day gets started, I do the announcements, and that's a little bit of an interaction as well. And then in between classes, the teachers and myself are all out in the hall, interacting with the students, helping them if they need something, or directing them where they need to go, helping them to hurry along a little bit because 4 minutes is a quick change. Yeah. And then at lunch, I'm in the lunchroom for both A and B lunch. Just making sure things are okay, making sure students have their lunches and that they're behaving properly and that they are getting what they need at lunch. So a good part of my day actually is spent interacting with students.
So is there like a really big change between high schoolers and middle schoolers at St. Clair and Marysville, or is it much of the same?
It's the kids are younger, so obviously there are a little bit of differences. The high school kids are a little bit more independent, and so they don't really need me as much as I think middle schoolers do. Middle schoolers still have a tendency to get a little emotional over things that kind of don't go their way, where high school kids have worked through that. They've matured and developed a little bit more. And that's part of our goal, is to work through that with them and helping them to understand that they're getting older and they do need to be more independent. Helping the parents understand that too can sometimes be a little bit difficult. And again, it's finding that balance too, and helping them to prepare for high school and the independence required, especially here at the high school at Marysville. You guys have a lot of independence, and still making sure that they get what they need, because they're still young. I mean, they're still 11, 12 years old, so they still need a lot of our guidance and a lot of our help.
I feel like having you been at a high school before, I feel like you're actually better preparing these students that are still maturing, still young, going through puberty, and everybody knows that was a tough time. But I feel like you have a little bit of an edge guiding them that way.
Yeah, I hope so, and that really is a focus, because I do see the high school kids come in and see what kind of areas that they needed a little bit more direction in. So for instance, one of the things that you guys have done at the high school is you guys have always used Student Connect. And so you were allowed to access your grades whenever you wanted. Your teachers kind of directed you to look at your grades in Student Connect. At the middle school, we're going to really start pushing our kids to do that. They hadn't done that in the past, but that's a part of teaching them independence and what it means to be independent and what it means to be able to speak for themselves and question things themselves, and that you guys are expected to do when you get here. And so our students at the middle school right now have all gotten Student Connect passwords, and they're looking now every day. They're expected to look every day at their grades and what missing assignments they have. Are they passing the classes? Have they been referred for intervention? Different programs related to that. And so we're trying to push them into a little bit more independence than they've had in the past.
So what are you most looking forward to this school year? Because it is still September. It's still getting going. We're still kind of on summertime, but what are you most looking forward to in this school year?
Well, I'm looking forward to a lot of things. I'm looking forward to our MEEP testing being done because that's always a big challenge. I'm looking forward to all the different events. I mean, sports just started. I love sports. I know we talked a little bit about sports, and so the girls volleyball team has played. They've been very successful. Our football team has the first game tonight, and so looking forward to those fun things that the kids get to do. Not that school's not fun, school's fun too, but all the extra things and getting the kids involved in those. The Halloween dance is coming up. Tomorrow night I actually have a meeting with our parent advisory committee, so I get to meet some parents and get their feedback. So there's a lot of things that I'm looking forward to doing, getting to know the parents better and the kids better as the year progresses.
Speaking of like sports and stuff, I always find it really humbling when the principal or the assistant principal comes to our games and you see them up in the stands. Do you plan on coming to some of those sporting events and extracurricular activities?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's part of building relationships with students is finding what their interests are, and so it helps to build that relationship. If you see a student at their volleyball game and they had a great serve, and you can go to them the next day at lunch and say, hey, that was a great serve, good job. You know, it helps to build those relationships, and that's sometimes with some kids that might be the only relationships that they have. That might have been the only person who noticed that they had a great serve that day. So it's really important. It's really important to be involved in more than just school.
I totally agree. And we are going to go to a break, but we will be right back after this.
In order to beat breast cancer, I knew I would have to lose my breasts. But to reclaim my life, I chose breast reconstruction.
Each year, nearly 150,000 women will learn they will undergo a mastectomy due to breast cancer. But 7 out of 10 women are never told about their breast reconstruction options. And the numbers are even worse for minorities. That needs to change.
This living can't be called living if it's really only half a life. She's a flower that grows despite cement walls, and she will survive. She will survive.
I wrote the song Flower to raise awareness of this important issue. Breast reconstruction is a very important part of the healing process, both physically and emotionally, and all women should know their reconstruction options. Download my song Flower to share the message and help us share the knowledge that women can feel whole again.
President Roosevelt signed the Bill of Rights. I've always appreciated the American Legion.
My gratitude to the American Legion.
Thank you all of the American Legion.
Well, we have millions of veterans that are members of our organization. Thank you.
The American Legion, celebrating a legacy of service to America. Find out more at legion.org.
Welcome back to Student Connections. Today we still have with us Marysville's new middle school principal, Mrs. Shagney. So tell us a little bit about how homecoming was last week. So tell us a little bit about how you were involved. Did you go to the game? Is it different than St. Clair's homecoming?
Okay. Well, the homecoming, the kids were very spirited and the staff was very spirited last week. So we had our Spirit Week was very similar to what you guys did at the high school with a couple of different changes because we don't have class colors like you guys do. But so we had College Day and Pirate Day, and for the most part, the kids really participated in that, especially the easier ones like College Day or Crazy Hair and Clothes Day. The staff did too, so we had a great time. We had a great time with that. It broke up, it was the third week into school, and we're kind of starting to feel that lull. So it helped to get everybody going again. The homecoming game, the weather was pretty bad, so I think that kind of killed some of the numbers on the homecoming game, but it was a lot of fun, and we loved the parade. Absolutely loved the parade. Got some great pictures. It was really a fun thing for the kids to experience. So I actually talked to Mr. Valco after and just told him, that was a lot of fun, and hope we continue to do that. In terms of the difference with St. Clair, it's pretty similar. They don't really at St. Clair, and we don't in East China. They really don't do much of the float building anymore. But in terms, we do the Spirit Week and all of those things still, and so similar but not the same.
Like I was in the parade. I was on the swim team float, and I always love seeing the elementary school kids and the middle school kids, and I feel like I hope we can keep doing that throughout the years.
I hope so. It was a lot of fun, and I think that it helps the middle schoolers understand how important it is to get involved. And so they see girls on the swim team up there, and they see the people, the kids in the band, and they see the football players and the soccer players, and you know, it's so important to be involved in school, and I think that just reminds them of that, how important it is. I mean, you don't want to be a bystander. Don't stand and watch all those things happen. Be a part of it happening. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I'm glad they got to see that.
I feel like the parade also helps like show all the like things you can get involved with. There's like tennis and swimming, and football and soccer, and there's golf, and there's just so many things to get involved. So hopefully we inspired some middle schoolers to get involved.
Absolutely. You know, and it's still about community. It's about community schools and how important community schools are to everyone. And that just showed, you know, you're going through a neighborhood, the neighbors are out, the people who live around the school are out, they're seeing that kind of thing. And that's what it's about. It's about community schools, and it's about that school spirit, and it's just an important part of our entire community. It makes us who we are. And so it's a fun thing. It's a great thing to do.
Definitely, it's a fun thing. Something that's kind of on the other side that's not so fun, bullying is kind of a big issue nowadays, especially with cyberbullying and texting and Twitter. How is Marysville Middle School preventing bullying from happening?
Well, I can see that the elementary schools have had very strong programs, because I don't see it as being a big problem. I mean, obviously we're going to have bullying. It's something that happens, and we try to prevent it by being visible. So being visible in the hall, for me to be visible, for the teachers to be visible in between classes, that prevents a lot of that bullying, because kids know that people are watching. Having the parade and having kids involved in things prevents bullying, because they realize that we're a family. You know, you don't treat your family like that, and so continuing to remind the kids of that. But at this point, our plan, and it's just a plan, but is to work with some of the school social workers to develop a program that you guys have at the high school for the middle school. And so we'd like to, I've talked to Mr. Farnsworth about your anti-bullying program, and so at this point our hope is to bring that to the middle school so that we can have another easy transition to the high school, so that when they see those stickers on the windows of your classrooms, that they know what that stands for. So, you know, at this point, like I said, I think that kids at the middle school, they feel comfortable going to an adult if they are being bullied, and I hope they do. And if there's kids out there that are uncomfortable with something happening or feeling like they're being bullied, then they need to talk to an adult. But we will have a more formal program implemented in the next few, probably by January.
That sounds really, really good. Could you talk about how maybe students get rewarded for like good behavior or like a great test score or help passing out papers? Do you have like a program in for that?
Yeah, our teachers have pride cards, and they give the students a pride card if they get caught doing something good. And so the students are given the pride cards, and then they can give the pride cards to Mr. Curley, they can give them to me, they can give them to somebody in the office, and we'll usually give them a little reward. And then once a week we're going to do a drawing for a small gift card or something for the students whose names who've been entered into the drawing for receiving the pride cards.
So most Wednesdays I just think, oh great, I get to sleep in, but it's called core. What do the staff do during core? What do they do when I'm sleeping?
Okay, so yeah, a lot of kids think that we don't do anything, but we do. We actually do work during those times, and a lot of it's collaboration. So we talked a little bit about PLCs, and so that is the professional learning community, and so the teachers will meet and they discuss, they can discuss a lot of different topics. They can discuss curriculum, they can discuss how programs that they've implemented are working. It might be discussion about a group of students or individual students, and how we can work together to help that student. And so we use those meetings for that. We use it for a lot of professional development, how to use the iPads, for instance, for instruction, how to, we talk a little about teacher evaluation and what the expectations are for them this year. And so those meetings are usually very, very rigorous, and we work hard during those meetings, and we look forward to that time to try to improve our building.
Definitely. So Mr. Curley is the assistant principal at the middle school. How is your relationship with him? How do you bounce ideas off of him? Like, how is that connection? How is that role played?
Well, Mr. Curley does a lot at the middle school, so he's not only the assistant principal, but he's also the athletic director, which is a big job. And so one thing that I've found Mr. Curley to be is a very, very good people person. So he's really great with the kids. He's great with dealing with issues with parents. And so he has a lot of hats that he wears at the middle school. Like I said, he's the athletic director, so he supervises a lot of athletic events. He is kind of the disciplinarian. He deals with a lot of discipline issues. But you know, he does a great job, and that's one thing. I've been very fortunate to have him there because he has been in the district a long time. He's had kids in the building. He knows the teachers. He knows the dynamic in the building, and so we are always working together to work through issues or to be proactive and prevent anything from happening. And so yeah, he's been a great resource to have.
That's really good. I'm glad that you have that collaboration right in your little office.
Yeah.
But I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Uh-oh.
What was your biggest surprise of this school year? And I know we're only 3 weeks in, but you have to tell me your biggest shock, your biggest like wow moment.
That's a tough one. Probably the biggest shock would be all of the intervention programs that they have at the middle school. And I know to some people that you guys are used to that, so that might not be a big shock to people. But for the students who are struggling at the middle school, we have what's called fit intervention, so the teachers can refer them for that, you know, about 25-minute block of time or that they can get extra help. And then we have after school learning, which is another block of time where they can get after school help. So it's just shocking to me, all the programs that they have to help support the kids. And I hope that the kids appreciate all the extra help that's available to them. And I hope the parents and the community appreciates or understands how much those teachers are willing to give to the students to help them to be successful. I mean, like I said, if a student at the middle school isn't successful, it's because they've chosen not to be successful.
Exactly.
Because there are so many different ways to get help, and it's a matter of just seeking that help out or making sure that if you are referred for those things, that you're cooperating and putting the time into it that's necessary to be successful.
Definitely. I remember when I was at the middle school, they just kept saying failure is not an option because there's so many programs that are put in place to be successful.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm amazed at how cooperative the staff is with that, and how much they want to see those kids be successful, and we want to see them be successful so that when they get here, that they can continue that success and then, you know, graduate from the high school and move on to bigger and better things. And so it all starts now. They've got to start working hard.
Well, thank you so much, Mrs. Shagney, for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
Maybe have you come back again in a couple of months to see how you're checking up, how you're doing?
Anytime.
This has been Student Connections with M6, your hometown station.
Did you know our 16th president, Abraham Lincoln, had a beard, being the first president to have facial hair? 2 years later, Ulysses S. Grant, our 18th president, started the trend again. The next 6 presidents all had facial hair. Some had beards, some had mustaches, and some had both. In all, 10 of our presidents had facial hair. And now, you know.
Can the impossible be done? The answer to that question is yes, and here's why. The capturing of a border town is said to be impossible. Well, the US had to capture the port city of Incheon on the coast of South Korea's Pacific border. The Battle of Incheon began on September 13, 1950, when US Marines started to fire guns and use air bombardment to get to the city limits of Incheon. On September 15th, US troops landed in the port city of Incheon. The goal of the Marines was to move inward and recapture the city of Seoul from the North Korean army. The forces that gathered to start the raid were the 1st Marine Division, the Army's 7th Infantry Division, and some South Korean units. After days of fighting, the town of Seoul was finally returned to the South Korean government on September 29, 1950.